Ruckus Avenue Radio.
Hi guys, it's Sunny and Shay here on our podcast Unfiltered, and we are live today recording for the fantastic Ruckus Avenue Radio in Hollywood Walk of Fame in the Dash Studios. Yeah. And this podcast is all about meeting fascinating people, delving into their work, really finding out what makes them tick. And we've met some great guests on the podcast.
I mean, everyone's come out for us, which is number one, really humbling that everyone turned up to speak to me and you.
Yeah.
And we're not from here, if you can tell. We're not from LA. Yeah. We're from London, and we've slowly just been giving you insight into who Sunny and Shay are. And we're husband and wife. We, sometimes don't agree. Well, most of the time we don't agree.
We don't agree.
We realize that we should have done this kind of conversation in the first part of our relationship.
Podcast, yeah, exactly.
No.
When we first met.
I mean, for the first 7 years, we didn't have a child.
Yeah.
And then our child turned up, and that's when we realized, hold a minute, who are you, love? Out of nowhere. Yeah. And I guess the honeymoon period had to come to an end at some point.
And the one thing, though, that we agree on is the environment.
We do.
And so it's great that we've got our next guest who actually is into two things Sunny and I love, which is fashion and the environment. We're really chuffed to have her with us. Runa Ray is a fashion environmentalist. She's a fashion designer, sustainable fashion advocate.
Wow.
There's a lot to talk about, Runa. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you so much for having me. Wonderful.
Now, here's the thing. Fashion is known and it's getting a bad rap, especially the
fast fashion.
Fast fashion is something that's came on trend because everybody wanted to feel part of the exclusive, and these manufacturers found a really quick way of turning around what's happening on the catwalk. Mm-hmm. But then what you have is thrown away. I'm Generation X, okay, so I know that if I bought a leather jacket, that leather jacket could go to my daughter or to my son in the future because that's how they were made, and you can maintain those. My leather shoes, I still got leather shoes that are like 20 years old, which I polish and I wear again, and I'm really proud of them. This environmental aspect of it and the way that we consume fashion, are we too late in the game now to make sustainable fashion with the way our consumption is?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking me that. I don't think we're too late in the game because I think a lot of people are stepping up, trying to make a difference. Right now, what we are facing in fashion is fashion's waste. Right. And rightly so because of fast fashion. Because fast fashion got to be disposable fashion.
Yeah.
And disposable fashion accounts to waste. So what we plan to do now with fashion's waste is a couple of things. So you have the industries who are looking at fibers that could be generated out of old clothes. Now, if it's a pure cotton, you can actually get the filament out and have another cellulosic fiber that's created.
Brilliant.
If it's a blend, it gets to be a little difficult. Mm-hmm. The other thing is prolonging the life of the garment, right? I mean, in India, we always had like your old t-shirt that could be used as a rag, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be my mother would never want to throw that away. She'd be like, give it to the driver. He's going to wash the car with it.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Exactly.
And it could be any fabric that always finds that one purpose.
Yeah.
But over here, what I find is that we are trying to extend the life by giving it another life. Now, how does that happen?
Yeah.
Swapping. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of these swap events that happen. Repurposing the garment where you could probably cut off like the leg of a denim pant and then make it shorts and use the legs to kind of make them into pots for plants.
Nice.
So that negates the use of plastic pots. So it's more, I think we're in an area of innovation.
So when we look at, World War II and prior World War II, there was this rationing in the United Kingdom, and our parents who then migrated from Kenya, from India, and went to this, cold island. They were like, oh, I need to grow my own food. Oh, I need to buy a sari. But when I bought a suit, my mum still got her suits from her wedding, which was in the 70s, right? So there was this understanding that when I buy this garment, it will last me for a good couple of, if not for life. That thought process is still with my mum. Because she will go to a shop and she can see this new t-shirt, but she goes, well, I've got yours. I don't need to buy that one.
I don't need it.
And when she's going to go to a wedding, she will buy her suit, she'll get it made, and that suit will suffice her for, a good couple of years. But then now you see people who just buy this one outfit, just like her mum did, but she can't be seen in it again. Because guess what? Everyone else goes, you wearing the same suit. So, it's almost as a state. So how do you come out culturally? Because you talked about your mum and purposing it. And then your thought process is, I'd like to wear my mum's outfit, but I'm not going to wear the same outfit to the same event if I've already worn it. How do you come out of those mindsets?
It's a very difficult mindset to crack, especially when you have Instagram and social media, right? You
need social media.
The OOTD hashtag.
Yes.
Outfit of the day. I think that's the most detrimental hashtag that could ever exist and has to be removed.
Right.
The outfit of the day. So how do you change that mindset? I think there are a number of ways that that's happening. It's happening through digital fashion.
Okay.
So you have the younger people kind of opting for that. It doesn't have much of a carbon footprint compared to the physical garment, but of course it would have a certain footprint when it comes to the digital side of things.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you are going out and you could invest like in a simple black dress, for example, or like the suit, right? It never goes out of fashion. You just need to accessorize it.
True.
Change it a bit. Wear a belt. Depends on your accessories, your necklace, whatever. Your shoes have a contrast that goes with it. It's just about playing around, and then you will get through it too. It will be the outfit of the day, and people will be amazed as to how you can wear this one outfit in various ways.
So now I know that Steve Harley got viral recently with his speech, where he gave a speech to men saying you need to own 7 suits with 7 different colors. And then he went through the colors.
He did the math.
And then he did
brilliant.
the math, and he said you're going to have 800, concepts with these
80.
80, sorry. And you saw these guys on Instagram matching them, and you could see, oh my God, that works.
Yeah.
So, but it's not as simple as that for some women, is it? I mean, like you say, the black dress, but then if the black dress isn't the appropriate thing to wear at that event, then you're upcycling or you're doing something else, aren't you? So there's so many solutions out there. But you've got, you've dressed at the Emmys using seaweed. Explain to me how that works.
At the Grammys.
Grammys, sorry. Yeah. How did that work?
Yeah, so like you rightly said, I'm a fashion environmentalist. And what I do is in my design processes, I find ways that I can negate the carbon footprint.
Right.
So in this particular collection, I worked on printing. And I worked with seaweed as one of the agents, as a coagulant.
Okay.
So you had seaweed, which was mixed with water in a trough to kind of get the water thickened. You have the inks that are splashed on the surface, and you have the fabric that's put on it. It's an ancient technique that was done in the Japanese royal high courts in the 12th century. The recipe was in fact stolen and then taken to Europe. So I revived this technique, and we had like these organic prints, which are really beautiful. It negated water wastage and water pollution.
Wow.
And made gowns out of it. And I got to dress a Grammy awardee.
And then when you look at
it,
so now if that dress was to be ended up somewhere where it need to be disposed, how will the environment take to disposing of that? I mean, we know some denim will be there for decades. Okay, there people are going into in the United States, they're going to certain places where the gold mine was heavy, and they're finding Levi's from the prospectors of those decades, with the Levi's still usable.
Yeah.
So obviously this material doesn't degrade because that's what it's made for. How will your dress fare or your gown fare in this kind of environment?
So it also depends on where it is in the landfill.
Right.
Now, garments, organic garments or ones that are made of cellulose like silk or natural like cotton and silk do biodegrade.
Yes.
But if you have a lot that is putting the pressure on it, it would take time for the air to get onto it and decompose in its own natural element. So when they found the Levi's jeans, it was probably way down and already compressed.
Okay.
Yeah, in some kind of mud or something.
Yeah. So then that makes it very difficult because there's hardly any oxygen.
Right.
And that's what causes greenhouse gases and the methane. So with this dress, this is made of silk. It's very airy, it's very light. The inks are made of chlorophyll. So they were extracted actually from chlorophyll leaves.
Wow.
So there's a certain process of extracting it. So that negates that's why I said it negates water pollution. And silk, if you have to really get rid of it, you just cut it up, and it's unbleached silk.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have any chemicals in it. There's
Amazing.
probably a certain process that goes into making the silk
Of course, with
yarn,
everything, but it's a
of
lot
course.
less impactful than what the traditional ways are.
So what you do is you cut it up and you mix it in soil and a bit of burlap. And
That's
you-
it.
you can actually
Bob's
put
your
it-
uncle.
So as a
As we
designer,
say in
you've
London.
already, yeah, as
your
a
uncle.
designer, you already done your research before this scan was even made. Like, okay,
Yeah,
how will it impact the environment if tomorrow it was? So, how can this be practical on a bigger scale, right? Because if we now look at what you've just said for one garment, I'll go to a shop now and I'll find the same T-shirt in different sizes. To upscale that process for everyone like me, Shay, or even Dallas, to go and buy sort of garments that are easy disposable. How cost effective is it for manufacturers to invest in this kind of technology
If you're
and for us to
looking-
consume it?
Yeah, if you're looking at scalability, garments of this sort can be scaled in terms of the printing process.
Okay,
Because that is something that could also be taught to certain communities and
Right.
indigenous people,
right.
where it could be a cottage industry, because right now the cottage industry is looking to boom.
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
When it comes to silk and wool, if you look at it, it's only 15% of fibers that are being used the world over. The rest is dominated by
Siniston.
polyester.
Yes,
Yeah, polyester,
This
yeah.
new miracle. I remember when it first came out. That was like this. Look at this amazing, stretchy material.
Yeah,
miracle material.
Yeah, it's so,
Exactly.
miracle,
Yeah.
Doesn't wrinkle,
All of that,
stuff
lovely.
like that.
And we're
right?
like, yeah, man, no ironing.
Yeah.
And realize
Yeah.
our poor planet is dying as a result of no ironing.
It's
Yeah,
so
and none of us
fascinating.
knew.
Yeah, but none of us knew then, but now we do. But the truth of the matter is we still consume it, don't we? Partly because as
We're used to it
We've
now.
talked
We're
about,
lazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we've also talked about, conglomerates, corporations, that it is just easier for the bottom dollar to actually still produce. But if we focus on, I'm just intrigued as you were talking, I was thinking, wow, Runa, where did this love of fashion, but environmental fashion come for you? Because clearly you've got such a wealth of knowledge, right? You're so well adversed to the styles, the techniques of making these garments. Where did that begin? When did you realize that actually you want to do fashion, but you want it to be as environmentally effective as possible?
I think I read this somewhere. You need to know the rules like a pro so you can bend it like an artist.
Nice, I like that.
Right?
T-shirt slogan.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
Love it.
Break the rules,
Love
mate.
that.
That's what they're made
Right?
for.
Yeah.
Massive bat.
So I always thought that fashion had such a great platform
Yeah.
rather than just making clothes and following trends and creating
Yeah.
something which was spectacular. If you had to make something spectacular, tie it up with a vision, tie it up with something with a social cause,
Right.
something for the environment. And that got me to work with a lot of activism pieces. And like you said, working with the processes, I said that each and every garment that I'm going to get out has to have one process that is going to be environmentally friendly. Probably I wouldn't be able to get all of it together. But even if I get 2 or 3 right, I know I'm doing this in the right direction. And that took me forward to kind of working with students and helping them think about the way they design and make garments.
Ruckus Avenue Radio.
With that in mind, let's talk about the UN Ocean Convention. You did a lot of work with the UN as well, don't you? And United Nations, it's renowned for so many things. And one of the biggest push, of course, at the moment is to do with the environment. So talk to us about the Ocean Convention and what took place and how you were involved.
So I got involved with the UN in 2019. There's a campaign called the Act Now campaign.
Okay.
And it
I
was
remember
about mobilizing people for the environment for Climate Week.
Right.
So with UN India, I had this one campaign where we went to schools and we converted old T-shirts into shopping bags. And if you
Nice.
remember at that time, we had the law that had been passed.
5p for plastic.
Yeah, plastics,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
To phase out single-use plastic.
That's right.
So we converted around 50,000 T-shirts into shopping bags
Wow.
for the Act Now campaign. So that was my first start. And then I had my exhibition at UNICEF showing them how fashion, again, could be environmentally responsible for like the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals.
Right.
Going forward, I worked with a lot of other departments, including the Environment Department of the UN, creating clothes for activism. I got invited for the UN Ocean Conference, which was a pretty big one. We had, I think, 20,000 people the world over who had
Wow.
come. And I worked with Lloyd's Register Foundation and the Seaweed Revolution. We spoke about how seaweed could be used, for example, in printing, how it could be used in the cottage industry, how it could be also used for paper making.
So with all of that, when you see some of the policies that were reversed from the Obama's administration, which now seem like with Biden's new, achievements that you can see the environment might be on track. The United States might be on track to hitting their target. But there was a phrase where some of these restrictions were taken off. Was, as an environmentalist, a scary time for you with one of the biggest countries with the biggest influence sending out the wrong message? With some of the hard work you put in there with the UN, and then you see that, the US, who was also part of that conversation, didn't actually pull their weight at a certain time.
What you're saying is absolutely true, but you know what, I felt that more than individuals being scared, we were scared for the UN, because the UN, they had cut the funding for the UN.
Of course they did. Yes, they did. Yeah.
And we were like, how are we going to operate if we're not going to have this umbrella that protects us?
Yeah.
And it's through the UN and the SDGs that we kind of,
but doesn't that also then show that the United States have invested a lot in the UN, and other countries need to get on board and not rely on this one individual country to just fund this organization?
Now that's true, but it's a highly politically debatable conversation.
Political is political, but you can see the impact of someone who doesn't believe in the UN or thinks, not really doing anything for my country, so I need to come out and I need to look after my people. That's, Donald Trump's take on, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not saying that's what his policy, but he just, like you said, he wanted to just take his money out of there.
Yeah, and he didn't want to believe in it.
Yeah.
He didn't believe in climate change.
So if all of these other countries got on board, no matter who leaves, it should be a fairer policy for everyone.
I agree.
So it's not politics involved, it's just fairness, isn't it?
I agree.
Really? Yeah.
I agree. And I think things are kind of changing now. People are getting on board. So hopefully we would see a different, hopefully we don't go back to what happened.
Yeah.
But going forward, there's a lot of investment being put.
It's so fascinating, isn't it? I'm so interested by this because, like, Sunny and I, we have a daughter. You've seen her running around in the back, a 4-year-old Tyra. And, especially like as parents, your concern is always, for your child to have the best of, all of us are thinking about the fact that we want to leave the world for our children in a better place than what we received it. However, we know currently that's not going to be the case. But when you talk about fast fashion, already I'm like, my goodness, every 6 months I'm constantly having to change the leggings because she's getting taller, or, the dresses because she doesn't like that style.
Yeah, but at the same time, to be fair to you, you're always looking at our family and saying, look, don't throw it away. Yes. Let me try it first before it goes anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm
so you're always
like a
conscious.
firm believer in, like, we have...
We're blessed.
I don't want to point anyone out, but like we know people who would never, they would be offended if I called them and said, hey, I've got these beautiful dresses. My daughter's only worn them a couple of times. Would you like them?
Yeah,
but they would be like, no. I only buy so-and-so brand. Whereas I'm the polar opposite. I believe in what I had as a young child. Like if my Buaji had something, I was like, I'd love to wear her suit or Salwar Kameez or,
Before we flew out, one of our Chachis, she had a little, baby girl. She bought her the best lenge, got them all designed and everything. And my daughter's got the same kind of figure. Now she's grown out of them.
Yeah.
She phoned
her
up.
Her daughter-in-law had the bags
full
of Indian outfits. So lengas, as Sunny said, Salwar Kameez, 2 saris. And like she was so upset, she was like, "Oh yeah, we're going to get rid of them."
Yeah, and she's like, "What are you doing?
What?
Why are you not offering it to the family?" And they hesitate, thinking
people are going to be offended.
People are going to be offended, and that's the other thing. When we talk culturally, in certain parts of the world, they'd be like, "I'm not poor. It's not about poor. It's about upcycling it. Making these garments."
Our family member was like, "Let's ask Shay," and I was like, "Happy days!
Happy days!
I don't need to. I know your style is amazing. I now for the next 2 years don't need to worry about my daughter having amazing Indian outfits.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a win-win, and that's more money in my bank, so I can go to LA more. Happy day. You know what I mean? So like,
I think,
but it's changing the mindset, isn't it?
Is that another conversation that needs to be had about? Giving someone clothes or donating food, clothes or taking secondhand clothes. Because I know these vintage shops, really cool. But if you then go to a charity shop,
that's not cool.
So cool.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the difference between
it's the same freaking thing.
It's just someone just went
the charity's getting money that you're actually helping an organization to help
And
people.
a vintage shop is thinking,
it's helping
these guys
the
are
boss.
mugged off, mate. I got that from Africa for about £2 and I'm selling it for 40.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
No, but I do agree with you. And I think certain family structures, yes, you don't worry about the so-called hand-me-downs, right?
Yeah.
But like we kind of spoke about, I mentioned the swapping that happens.
Yes.
So that culture is definitely happening. And we also have like renting clothes.
I love the idea of renting clothes.
So I think that's great. That's pretty cool because it helps a lot when it comes to occasions.
Yeah.
And that's when what we were speaking about, the outfit of the day.
Yes. Yeah.
You can rent it.
That's it. Take your Instagram picture and give it back and send someone else taking it.
And it's probably cheaper than buying it.
Yeah. So there was something else that we did want to talk about. I mean, just before we talk about the circularity of fashion and what, it comes, well, you're hoping for it to come full cycle. Let's talk Met Gala, please.
Yes.
For those of us who don't know what happened with your work with the Met Gala.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, you didn't have the hamburger, did you? That wasn't yours.
No, the hamburger dress on Katy Perry was not.
No,
wasn't
I didn't.
yours.
I didn't do that.
Oh my God.
Or I didn't do the egg splotch either.
Oh my God.
Maybe a samosa dress. We need a samosa outfit or like an aloo chaat outfit on the Met
Or a
Gala.
dosa.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Give me a high five. I love dosa.
That's-
Like
dosa
reaching
is
over
the
to Runa
one.
right now.
I love
it. Love that.
Food themed food.
Exactly.
And that's vegan as well.
Yeah.
A dosa is a vegan
I
thing.
know. I love dosa.
That's
I
so
love
clever.
dosas. But yes, so tell us about your work with the Met Gala then.
Yeah, so the Met Gala outfit was pretty interesting. I knew the president of the Council of Fashion Designers of America, and he was invited there by Anna Ventura.
Nice.
And I told him, I'd like to make something for you. And I said, let's not make something new, but let's look at what you have. So he had this one jacket,
Clever.
which
You're
was
such a clever lady. I love it.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm flattered.
Let me save you money.
Let me save you money
Yeah,
and
let me
me
say-
because I don't need to buy no fabric.
Yeah,
But this is
exactly, right?
Yeah, this is
Exactly.
I love
So
this.
clever.
You're getting to the point.
I
So
love it.
we don't want the listeners to know
Yeah, we
that.
don't-
No,
No,
sorry.
the listeners are thinking, mate, where are we missing a trick here?
No, but this is good. It's for the environment. So what did you?
And
What
by
did
the
he
way,
have?
everyone who listens to this podcast are in on it.
Yeah,
we're part of the same
they're in
team.
the family, yeah.
we're part of the
Yeah,
family. We're not
exactly.
exclusive. We're inclusive.
That's
Exactly.
Just
awesome.
letting you know.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he looked into what he had and he was like, I had this 10-year-old tuxedo. I was like, perfect. I said, what's your favorite book? And he said, I like Khalil Gibran. I said, okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
And I kind of went through it and I found this one chapter which was on giving.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I was also the lead mentor for Swarovski and the CFDA Regeneration Award for one of the students who had won it.
Amazing.
So I said, why don't we do something and get Swarovski also on board along with repurposing a tuxedo?
Okay.
So now Swarovski makes like a ton of crystals, right?
Yes.
And you have so many crystals that are rejected.
Of course.
Which they kind of, take to the Oscars and they do the podium and stuff. But what happens to the rest of it?
Exactly.
So I said, do you have like,
A surplus of rubbish ones. Give them to me. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like 3mm rubbish ones.
Yeah, just give them to me.
Just
yeah.
give it
no
to
one's
me.
going to know in a picture.
Yeah, no one's going to
So-
zoom in
Yeah.
to see is that crystal clear enough.
And they sent it across and it was perfect. Probably just one or two chipped here and there. And I was like,
Brilliant.
So what I did was I took this entire chapter of giving because Met Gala is all about giving. It's about taking the money and using
Yeah.
it for a
Yes.
bigger cause, right? And I translated it into Braille and used Swarovski.
Wow.
So
Clever.
his entire jacket was the chapter on
Chapter.
giving using Braille.
How beautiful.
And he was all right with people touching him.
He must have been blown over.
Yeah, he was like, you know what this is? This is a novel.
Touch
from
me,
a very-
touch
Yeah.
me. Right?
What does it say? Yeah, I mean, like,
I'm
it's like,
giving you myself.
And then,
Love that.
Harvey Weinstein would have loved that jacket.
Okay, let's not go there.
And I thought it was perfect because a lot of
Is it too
people-
soon? Ellen, too soon for Harvey Weinstein? Is it?
Too
Is that
soon
the
for
same?
him.
I don't
Too
care.
soon for him. But let's go back to what you're
Sorted.
saying, Runa.
No, but I was
Yeah.
like, I thought it was pretty cool because a lot of people didn't know it was Braille. It was a cocktail hour. And I was like, this is perfect because you can see, but you're blind.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
like it.
How
Yeah.
did he must have loved that.
He loved it. It was perfect. He sparkled.
Yeah.
It was tone on tone. It was black on black.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was very cocktail. And I think the theme was something to do with gold and glitter and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because everyone was quite glittery that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only thing, I think Marilyn Monroe's dress was...
Kim Kardashian.
She wore
Yeah.
that and
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
fit into that, and they're like, you owe us 60 grand now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she literally walked from there to the up the stairs and she ripped it or something.
Yeah, she
Like,
did rip
yeah,
it.
don't do that, man. I mean, you shouldn't
Exactly.
be messing around
Fabric.
Marilyn Monroe. Look at her body and look at yours. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
I know.
Yeah.
Why would you go there?
Yeah,
But
they should have called you.
they should have called Runa.
What would you? No,
Brady.
let's find out. What would you done for Kim? You would be like,
Yes.
what would you put on her? A burqa or something?
Oh my gosh, I really have to think about that.
Oh, okay. It'd be good.
I didn't have to think that much for Steven. It just happened like that.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
But
This
Kim,
one I'll
if you
probably
look
have
at
to
Kim
think.
Kardashian, she's like, if we think about just off the bat, she's very influential on Instagram. We know that. She's got a book of her Instagram pictures. That's her
Yeah.
book. Contribution to the British Library now, right? It's there forever because it's a book.
Yeah,
but when
true.
you look at it, she is someone who can put on an outfit and make it work for her body, right? So
Yeah.
she can adjust things. You as an artist, using that
Just
canvas,
fabrics, yeah.
how would you be able to make an impact with someone with that kind of influence?
Yeah.
I think you wouldn't even look at Kim Kardashian. You're seeing the billboard that can then project them. That's basically what red carpets are. They're billboards, aren't they, to
Yeah,
project these
true.
ideas.
Like I said, I probably need to know the person.
Yeah.
Need to
Yeah.
understand the person.
She likes
because-
money. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Are you using this podcast? Who cares? Are you using this podcast as an advert to try and get Runa a job for Kim
Yes.
K? Okay, let's do that.
And if Kim hears what I'm saying, I think she's an amazing lady who's a really good businesswoman. I mean, like, she knows what's her assets, and if they aren't there, she'll get them built in her.
Absolutely.
It's like, upgrading a car. Like, if you want chrome on your car, what do you get? Chrome bumpers. And she's got bumpers.
She's got bumpers.
Both back
chrome.
and end. Do you agree, Dallas? Yeah, Dallas agrees.
I met her and yeah.
He met her, and that's the case.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Thank you for that
isn't she a
contribution.
nice person?
Very, very.
Thank you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not taking away from her. I
Yeah,
think she's
yeah,
an
yeah,
amazing
yeah.
individual.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because you make a valid point. Like, it is celebs such as her, so many others who impact what we then go on and buy. That actually, is that kind of a goal for you to work with those type of people to really get that message out there around sustainable fashion? The detriments of fast fashion. Is that
I
something
think,
you'd like, Runa?
absolutely, right? Because influencers do have that wide reach.
Yes.
But you got to be careful what you're voting for. Because you got to choose who you're going to work with
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And I do feel bad about what happened with the Marilyn Monroe dress because
Yeah.
I
That's
think
an iconic dress,
It's an
yeah.
iconic
Yeah,
dress. It
yeah.
had some sort of history to it.
Well, it had a lot of history.
And even if you look at what's going to probably happen, I hope nothing happens to Jacqueline Kennedy's dress that is still locked up.
Yes.
But imagine something crazy happens to it, 50 years from now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to see that.
Because you're really passionate about garments and they
Yeah.
hold,
and the
moments in
history
history
behind
behind them.
it.
Yeah.
Ruckus Avenue Radio.
That's quite a nice way for us to talk about, in the final part of the podcast, about something you're really keen on and passionate on, which is circularity in fashion. So
Yeah.
fashion waste for a social cause, that, yes, we talk about upcycle, but this is on a bigger, wider scale of what you're hoping for. And tell us a bit about this, the San Quentin State Prison as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every industry has waste, right?
Yeah.
There's no industry that doesn't have waste.
exactly.
And
Very true.
fashion has a lot of waste that's generated, and we know it's also consumer driven.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of waste that is generated on the table, at the cutting table, it's 15%. Now, globally, I wouldn't know the number.
Okay.
But this is the general amount that is generated from every industry.
Right.
Wow.
So what do you do with that waste? You can do a couple of things. You can make that into paper, that goes into packaging, reintroduce it back into the industry. What happens to old T-shirts that are synthetic or even old garments that actually end up in the landfill?
Yeah.
So what I've done is we have this one project called the Peace Flag Project. It works on the intersection between climate change and peace.
Okay.
Because I believe there's no environmental justice without social justice.
Right.
Nice.
Now, when I say that there's going to be an intersection between climate change and peace, because if you have climate change, you're going to have mass migration, and this is definitely going to cause wars. And
We've
you're not
seen
going
that
to have
happening
a
now, haven't we? Like
right?
people from those countries where the water is running out.
Exactly.
They're migrating lower.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And you're going to have water shortage,
Yes.
and this is, and when you don't have water, you're not.
You
it's
haven't got
gonna-
a planet.
Nothing.
That's it. You're dead.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to be killing each other just for that one stream that
I
probably
agree.
passes through.
Yeah.
So what I'm working with is we're using fashion's waste, turning that into canvases, making people make commitments by me talking to them about how their actions are responsible for it. Because according to the McKinsey report, 21% of climate change abatement lies in the hands of the consumer.
Of course.
So what you do with your garment is extremely important. So when you have these commitments that are done, so you have like the t-shirt that's cut out into 10 by 10 in canvases of 10 by 10 inch, and then it's drawn upon. Then they're sewn and then they're displayed the world over. So
Right.
we've had like displays at the UN, we've had displays at the entire facade of the city council
Yeah.
in the Bay Area. We're in fact working with the San Quentin State Prison now, upcycling their clothes. We worked with few refugees. We're speaking with organizations in Ukraine to get the voices of the unheard out into the free world, and at the same time clamoring for peace and justice.
So when we look at this initiative, every time you talk about artists and canvases and all of those, I'm thinking if you had one artist or a couple of artists who use these kind of ideas that you've had, would speak echoes in the industry.
Yeah.
Do you have big artists who are taking on board these kind of techniques, or are they do they see this as a possibility of a permanent way of using recyclable canvases to do their work on?
It's interesting, but right now we're having the entire community that are becoming artists by themselves. Right? So when a person comes to me and says like, I can't draw, I'm like, write something and sign your name, because your signature is the first art that you ever founded.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I
It's true.
love that.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And Shay had to do that twice.
I had to do it twice because I had to change my name.
Yeah. So,
Honestly.
she's had 2 hits.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've actually, do you know what though? I've actually got
Are you going to do it now?
piece of paper. No, but I've got a piece of paper at home whereby I remember I was practicing because I was so desperate to hold on to my maiden name. And I tried to practice to do to intertwine my maiden name with my surname. And then I was like, no, it doesn't make sense because I'm not using my maiden name. My father was very clear. You either hold on to your name. I don't want, these are my father's words, so I do not want to offend anyone who has double barrel.
Yeah, everyone to their own. Everyone to their own.
My father was like, you are not going to, quote, bastardize my name. Either you hold on to yours
or you take on mine.
Yeah,
right.
That was his passion, and he was right. It was his name I had anyway.
Yeah.
Or I just did, hold on to core and that's it. So, but I literally was trying so many different ways to change the surname, change the signature, and I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
So now I've had 2 signatures.
See,
basically.
my one, it evolved over time, right? So my one is a heartbeat now. So as I do it,
it
it's
literally is.
It looks like a heartbeat.
Oh, lovely.
And the reason why it looks like that, because I'm a dyslexic, right? So I'm not good with letters. So if I have to write my name fast, I get confused halfway.
Now you've just told everyone how to
Exactly.
sign over your property.
but here's the
hobby.
thing. So when I was doing it, my signature changed over 3 years, 4 times, and I had to then verify who I was through my passport. And because every time I was writing my signature, I was writing my name. Oh no, that's not a D, that's an E, that's a P. And then it was like, what are you doing? I said, you know what, sod this letters, man. I'm just gonna just do squiggly lines and whatever my hand can do properly. And then we got famous as Sunny and Shay.
Yeah,
Then I had to find a new bloody signature,
bloody
didn't
hell.
I? Because obviously my real
be
name,
using your
I couldn't
real
use my real
name.
name.
Like
so
when
then
you're signing
I've got
it
this
automatically.
massive S, and I'm doing the same squiggly thing. And I'm like, that looks all right. She goes, yeah, it looks like a fat guy who's just who's run out of steam or something. I said, no, it doesn't. That's an S. And that's the belly. And then I got paranoid about my S and all of that. And then I had to do it a couple of times. And then I showed it to people, and that's really nice. And so Shay was just jealous because Shay doesn't come out as good.
No, it doesn't. But coming back to your point, your reference point, you're absolutely right. We all have art in us, whether it's your first autograph. But then do you find with what you're doing with fashion waste for social cause, are there people who are opposing it? Are there people who...
Because the industries, and don't forget what
I
you're
feel like
doing
there's
right
going to be
now.
industries going to be like, no, you're going to take us out of business, This
But
is
not only that, there's a massive, economy around the third world countries who rely on this kind of cheap labor, which is sad.
Fast fashion,
but then maybe that $1 they make in a month might be the only way to feed their family. How do you then, say, okay, we're going to stop this fast fashion for our planet, but at the same time, it's kids and families are going to starve as a result of this industry dying down or even non-existent. How do we look after them as well? Because don't forget, they have to find a living in these countries where they're not, where they rely on this kind of labor.
I don't think we need to have fast fashion, because if you look at people who are producing clothes, and if you look at factories who are making garments, you're just going to have the population that's going to increase, right? By 2050, you're going to need a lot more clothes. You really need to look into affordable housing. We're talking about being affordable, but at the same time, not stripping the garment worker of the actual pay.
Right.
So when you don't need garments that are trend-based, that come out for 1 week and don't last.
Okay.
That's what's happening at the moment,
Right?
right?
Yeah, that's the case
So
right now.
if you're going to invest a little more in the right thread that doesn't break, you're going to pay the garment worker his fair wage.
Right.
But just invest in the right material.
Then when you look at the government policies behind these countries that I'm talking, I'm not naming any one country. I'm talking, which ones, because you're in the fashion industry, you know where, some of these T-shirts with the big logos
Made in
come from.
so-and-so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you can see on the back of the label where they come from. The reason why they come from these countries because that T-shirt cost them minus 5 pence.
Yeah.
Because they're making a profit by getting it made there.
Yeah.
When we look at the policies of labor in those countries that aren't held accountable for letting these external companies come and exploit those land workers, would we ever make what you say there, can it ever happen? Because we're not looking at it from a fashion pattern for you. We talk about economical and a political point of view now.
True.
It could probably happen, but again, it depends on the industry and the brand that is investing in the country. Now, I forget the name of this one brand, but they had a certain strategy where they were like, they were not going to put too much money into marketing because they already were established. But they would take that money and put it into the garment worker rights,
Nice. Okay.
into paying the people.
Well, that-
So it really depends on where you're going to put your
Yeah.
money in.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't have to actually spend it unnecessarily when you've already established
But
yourself.
does it always rely on the individuals who are making it, or do we need to hold? Look, like this couldn't happen in America, even though it's certain aspects there is happening this kind of stuff in America, but it couldn't happen in somewhere like Germany or Switzerland. They couldn't open up these shops and
Yeah.
pay someone that kind of money to produce this T-shirt.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And that's because of the policies of those countries.
Yeah.
So, do we need to then
to push back at governments,
government
yeah.
and the policies and the corruption that might be in certain parts of the world to do with this industry that
Yeah,
we need to get the UN involved in and say we need to, if we're going to invest in this country and we're going to make our garments there, they need to look after these number one, who's making it, and number two, guaranteeing that we can make it sustainable.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of policies being put into place, especially when it comes to pushing back the government. In the US and in Europe, a lot of talks of onshoring, because you need to start making garments within your country.
Yeah.
Because that's where you can manage your waste and actually talk about the closed loop system.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? And when you're going to start manufacturing in your country, you kind of start realizing that there are people who actually paid like $1 a day for a t-shirt, especially there was something that happened in Los Angeles.
Right.
And they found that out. And so you have a lot of fashion packs that are being put together.
Right.
People are working towards it. Even in the UK right now, they're giving a lot of incentives when it comes to recycling fiber.
Yeah, because I
And
was going to
using a
mention,
lot
I was
of
going to mention
recycling.
like H&M comes to mind in the UK. I don't know about other countries, but in the UK they have like a system whereby they have it in the stores where they say if you have any old H&M clothes that you don't want, you can bring them
Yeah.
back
Right,
into
yeah.
the store.
Yeah.
They will then be upcycled, and that's kind of amazing to see because there was a huge outroar. I remember around stores, shops like they don't have them here, but Monsoon, Primark, H&M in terms of labor, child labor, and a lot of these organizations now are doing so much more, actually, especially Primark in comparison to
Yeah.
the large fashion houses like Gucci, Prada, whatever your big fashion houses are. They're doing a lot of work and they're actually showing it to the customer because the customers are like, well, we'd rather not wear that if we know how that product has been made. So it comes around full circle, doesn't it? Us, the consumer, has to put the pressure
Right.
onto these brands. But again, yes, the high street brands, as we would call it in the UK, they are doing the work. But then what about these big fashion houses, the big sneakers, in the UK, we call them trainers. A lot of these companies and the way that they also make their product, no one really talks too much about it.
Yeah, because that's transparency is very difficult right now in the fashion industry. Everyone talks about being transparent.
Yeah.
And that's where I struggle as a fashion designer because, the more you know, the more you kind of pull back.
Of course.
And that's when sometimes I'm like, I don't want to make this garment anymore. I'd rather make it and then talk about its flaws.
Yeah, got
Makes
you.
sense.
So people know about it. Because for me, where I struggle is the seed.
Yeah.
I really struggle with the cotton seed. People are like, it's organically grown, but I'm like, where is that seed from?
So you can go to that far, you genetically produced.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't
So
think
Is
of
it
that.
GMO?
that's what she's saying. How far
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
go
yeah, yeah.
with this whole kind of
Yeah.
transparency? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruckus Avenue Radio.
Another thing, you spoke about sneakers.
Yeah.
Now they talk about a lot of plastics that are being pulled out
Yeah.
of the oceans and then made into sneakers.
About less than 1%.
Now, they are doing it, for example, here in the US. But let me tell you, there are hardly any recycling plants for plastic.
No, they're coming from fresh
From
plastic.
Turkey.
Yeah.
I mean,
Really?
that's where the recycling is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Philippines.
So
Because
that's
right now, yeah, so-
because that's a whole transport thing that's happening again. You're
Yeah.
still leaving a carbon footprint.
Right. And And also when you recycle plastic, when you break down the polymer, it reduces, it gets reduced, it cannot be recycled again. It's like any virgin material, right? Even cotton. Once it's broken down, you can probably recycle it one more time and then it's done because the filaments get really weak.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with plastic. But if you're going to market your sneakers saying that it's made of recycled plastic, are you doing it here? Or are you outsourcing it?
Yeah.
And the amount of noxious gases that are released during the recycling process is not very good. And this lends itself to environmental racism.
Interesting. See, this is another.
Before we say goodbye, what do you mean by environmental racism? For anyone who's thinking, well, what term? What does that actually mean?
Environmental racism is people who are living in the hinterland and people who are surrounded by these industries, especially with fashion, with dying effluents that are running into the water, like what we spoke about with plastic recycling, with the fumes and everything. And they have to live with it because we don't have industries where we live.
Yeah, they don't want it in their backyard.
Exactly.
Let's get the product and let somebody else deal with the...
It's so much to digest. I remember who was, and I know we're saying goodbye because of time, but...
I know, sorry about that. This conversation could carry on. It's just brilliant.
Was it? He was a former president, candidate for president in the US, and then he made like this Oscar-winning... climate change.
What's his name? It was Al Gore. Do you remember his? One of the first.
I wonder, like,
and now,
the impact,
unfortunately,
I was going to say, what I wonder about the impact of that, though, is yes, it was great. It was a film, but like, I wonder if what you're talking about needs to be on those kind of platforms where it does explain it a bit more, or where I don't know, you have like a international fashion forum where actually. People are held accountable, because a film doesn't do enough. Us talking about it doesn't. Do you see what I mean?
Or just people informed.
It's accountability.
You should have a Netflix series.
That's what we need. That's a good one.
You got to do that, Runa. You know the stuff.
You get the information. We'll blend our voices to it.
We can ask the questions.
Yeah.
You know
You need to really have a Netflix series where people can see how garments are being made, where it's been brought from, and get designers involved.
So basically what you're saying, the garment industry needs the same approach as the meat industry got, like informed decisions, right?
Like the diamond industry.
So you want a diamond? Fair enough, get a diamond. This is how it came to you. Now you're informed, now you do what you want. Just like the meat industry, this is what happens to your meat. This is how you get this meat into your plate. Now, if you want the vegan side of it, if you want no meat, if you want, there you go, you're informed. I think that's more... less preachy, because I'm a vegan right now, right? And I don't listen to veganisms, but the documentaries around how my meat was made, and very much looking at documentaries where corporations were talking about what we do for our animal welfare and all that kind of stuff. I listen to all the propaganda side of it alongside
the
reality side of it, and then in the middle somewhere there's the truth for where I can now go and make an informed decision.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. So with your garments that you talk about, right, this t-shirt, I write no. Okay, so this is where it's come from. It's organically made and it's made in the United States of America. Now I know that even the seed that it's made from might have an issue with it. Right? But I'm informed.
Right,
so now,
but I want to extend that.
Okay.
I want to add.
Do.
I agree with the meat industry and the diamond industry that you mentioned, but with the fashion industry, it just doesn't stop with me selling you the product.
No, of course.
And that's the mistake.
It carries on.
It helps if I educate you to decide what you want to do with the product
afterwards.
No, but this is what I'm talking about.
By taking it back.
No, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. This is what I'm saying. When it comes down to the informed decision, all right, so I bought this t-shirt. This is where it came from. Brilliant. I'm wearing it. Oh, no, I can do more with it after I've got rid of it.
Right.
So this is what I'm talking about. Informed. So if I buy this t-shirt, they're not going to be able to recycle that. But I like it. But I like the way it fits. This one, after I bought it, I can then give it on. So what do? Shall I buy the one I like right now? It fits nice and makes me look slim, right? And I can't, and it's going to go to a landfill. Or shall I get that one? It still looks okay, but then I know it's got life after it. I've just made an informed decision.
Yeah.
That's what. So I agree. I'm not just talking about that one.
Can I just say,
perfect.
thrift shops, vintage shops all the way then, hey?
Start with that. That's a good start, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure that
upcycling.
Dallas, your shirt that you're wearing right now.
I just thrifted it like a week.
He thrifted it.
Awesome.
And can I say I know that because of the cut of the no one gets a cut like that now. That's probably a 90s
classic
cut.
90s, mate.
That's a 90s cut, am I right?
Looking like a jean.
And the collars.
And the collars give it away. See, I'm not a fashion guy, but I know my shit.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, dude.
But I love shopping in, like, we call them vintage stores in the UK.
And charity shops.
And I love all of that because you find some stuff you think, oh my, I would never have otherwise found this.
But can I just say, people are a lot slimmer then.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I went into somebody's shop. That's a wicked suit. I put it on. I was like, what the hell were they eating?
He found this gorgeous Louis
Such
Vuitton.
a brilliant suit, mate.
Classic Louis Vuitton. And he couldn't shut it.
And you know
And he
what?
was like,
I couldn't let it go.
buy it or not?
Because it was so well made.
Yeah, he's like,
I
I'm
said,
gonna fit into
I'm gonna
this.
fit into this one day.
Yeah.
Then I did fit into it. It didn't look as good.
Nah.
Yeah. But I still got it.
I wear it
Shay
now.
wears it, but I still got
Oh,
it.
perfect.
Yeah.
As long as it's being used.
Oh, listen, that's
Right?
not good. And that's going to frame that one, you know,
Yeah,
because it's almost like
classic. Yeah.
some garments that you see look like good Shay's lenga from her wedding. We're going to get that framed
Yeah.
one day.
Yeah,
We're not getting rid
absolutely.
of that.
Absolutely.
Even though you now responsibly.
Tyra doesn't
you
know
should-
it. She has to wear that at her wedding.
No,
Okay.
she's not getting married. Anyway, so, my daughter's not getting married. I've done that. It didn't work out.
Because I'm the boss.
The boss. I stopped being, okay, fair enough. She looks after me very well.
gonna say.
Right? And she does really good. I get good food and all of that lovely
Yeah, but
stuff.
I'm not your cookie or maid. I'm your wife.
Yeah,
It's a
she's
massive
my wife.
difference.
You know what I
bruv.
mean? And
Honestly.
with the other benefits, sex is cool. Happy days. You get it on
Yeah.
tap if you are not married. But
That was a good
Is that
one.
good one? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you learn to, famine is another thing that you can use.
Sleeping on the sofa, which Sunny will be doing for the next 2 days after this
and
chat.
this is why I bought a 90-inch TV in my living room. They're like, why did you need such a big TV? And I said, I spend most of my nights out here, man. I can lose myself in this world.
Runa, it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you,
really
Princess.
Intelligent conversation. It's been for us. It's been really enlightening.
Did you say intelligent? And why did you just use the word informative?
No, but it was really
it's
intelligent.
like, we
but
expected you to
she's
be non-intelligent because everyone else was non-intelligent.
No, I'm saying it was so enlightening.
Thank you for
But it
thank you
was
for
so
coming
enlightening.
and being intelligent.
No, I
Do you know what
stand by that because actually so many people say, yeah, I know about fashion, but you've really delved into, I genuinely, one thing I've learned even now is when you're talking about, I've never even thought of it. I just think, oh yeah, organic cotton, great.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're talking about the seed, go to the source. These are the kind of things I genuinely don't think
That if
people,
any rabbit
the
hole,
average
you can go as
Joe
deep as you like.
will
Oh,
think
yeah.
about.
Yeah, I
but
mean-
it's
The dreams of the
it's-
unconscious.
Exactly, I love it.
Yeah, I like that.
That's your t-shirt slogan.
See, the ideal outfit is
Yeah.
the one that God gave us, but then
Yeah, you walk around butt naked if you want, Sonny.
Yeah, that's it.
No one
yeah.
else needs to see it though.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And my hair
Runa,
does a good idea of covering everything.
You're lucky. You're not as.
I'm not as
your
hairy.
family they are, but
They literally, you know what they could do? You know what they do? They get their hand. My uncle, he goes in there and he grabs his chest hair and he pulls it, and then he opens his hand. It's a whole fluff of hair in his hand. And he goes, I can give you this. You can make a jumper out of it if you like.
No,
he goes,
thank
it's
you.
better than wool because
No.
it won't burn.
It's organic.
But don't forget, if you burn that hair, it doesn't burn the whole outfit. It will just go and it'll stop.
Just
Yeah.
cinch.
Yeah, because that's what happens.
Now
to
that's
natural
what
hair.
you need to do.
Intelligence,
Yeah.
And I said, how did you know that? He goes, I burnt myself once, and it just stopped there. And I went, that's the only research you've done. I said, yeah, there you go.
we have to leave there because of time, but
It
it's
is.
been such a pleasure having you with us, Runa. People can follow you on Runa Ray on social media, and I'm sure we'll be, when we're back in LA, we'd love to get you back to kind of continue this conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on
Thank
our
you.
podcast.
And hopefully you'll
Thank
be
you.
dressing us for our podcast awards.
Yes.
I would love
Do you know what I mean?
to.
You're like,
We
Sonny,
would.
you know that influence that I thought about you, and I thought, yeah, you should just wear this loincloth. That's
Yeah.
it. Walk on and
No,
don't.
he's
and
He's
don't
already
wax.
put out what he wants to wear.
No,
He's
that's
told
not.
you
I don't
now.
want to, but I can see
He's
you
told
thinking.
you now.
I can see you thinking. You know what? Just don't wax for a month and just wear this. You know what I mean?
So the line cloth is saved.
Saved,
The rest
yeah.
gets singed.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
fine.
that it is. Thank you for joining us on our Unfiltered podcast, Runa. You've been absolutely
Thank you,
fascinating.
Princess.
Really, obviously, love the intelligent conversation. That's it from Sunny and Shay. We'll see you in the next episode.
With the unintelligent conversation.